In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
The Gospel of John and the Epistles of John were certainly written by someone who was an eyewitness of the ministry of Jesus.
A large percentage of the New Testament is written by this person.
The same was in the beginning with God.
John's writing style is actually very simple and very sophisticated at once. In one respect, in terms of the grammar that he uses, the vocabulary he uses, he has some of the most simplistic Greek language you see anywhere in the New Testament.
Sometimes the grammar isn't exactly the way someone who speaks English as a first language would do it. Sometimes the vocabulary is more limited than it might be otherwise.
On the other hand, he has some of the most sophisticated writing in that he has a very nuanced way of using the words that he uses.
Here's somebody who uses this language in a limited way, and in some respects a distinct or idiosyncratic way, but I'm getting all of the meaning that he's trying to convey. I understand exactly what it is that's being said, and sometimes it's even being said in a way that I realize is very memorable and profound.
So he'll take one word and give it 4 different meanings sometimes, depending on the context.
He was deliberately breaking them for striking effect, the way, you know, a person who knows that you don't use the word ain't in standard English might drop it in.
All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made.
He's presented to us as a fisherman by the Sea of Galilee, who presumably had been there all his life, because that's the kind of thing that we would have expected of someone who was in that location.
The Galileans are generally regarded, at least later in the rabbinic literature, but also probably in the first century, as a less sophisticated, more of a rural backwoods, sort of hillbilly type of area. It's a little bit less sophisticated in the minds of the Judean population. It's further away from Jerusalem, which is kind of the center of Jewish culture.
In him was life, and the life was the light of men.
It appears very much as if even before Jesus says to these guys in Galilee, "Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men," they have met him.
Jesus works as a construction worker, basically.
We know that John and these other fishermen are from Capernaum. Jesus is from Nazareth.
Nazareth and Capernaum are not that far away. You're talking about a number of miles, maybe an afternoon's walk from one to the other.
But could they have, you know, crossed paths? Eliminate possibilities like middle school soccer tournaments and things like that they didn't have, but you've still got plenty of social interaction where something like that could be going on.
And the darkness comprehended it not.
The Galileans are less cultured and less vested in, less integrated into polite Jewish society.
And Galilee is that place that people from Judea, and Jerusalem in particular, would have looked down on.
There was no reason at all for Jesus to look for a person like him.
Generally have some region that you make jokes about, and about the people who live there, and sometimes that's just harmless fun, but often there's some underlying animosity there.
I'm trying to think of something that wouldn't be terribly derogatory.
Galilee is kind of a hick area,
backcountry.
You can't be quite sure that those people are following the law as rigorously as the folks are in Jerusalem.
Sort of a hillbilly type individual that would not be thought of as, in worldly standards, as anything at all.
He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not.
Regional accents were very pronounced, and just going a few miles down the road, you would hear the language being spoken in a different way.
Galileans apparently had an accent that was different from the way Judeans spoke, just as today you would have different accents in different parts of the United States.
And you and I know how this works because we can often identify people from different parts of the United States.
A Galilean accent would be similar to, I almost say, a Southern accent. It's not considered to be a sort of a mark of culture by any stretch of the imagination.
You know, Galilee may only be like 40 miles away from Jerusalem or so, but there's a distinct way that they would be speaking Aramaic, the main language. that folks spoke there, or Greek, the trade language as well.
Sanhedrin to conclude that John and Peter are illiterate people because they speak that dialect, the rural dialect of Galilee.
He came unto his own, and his own received him not.
John is, along with his brother James and with Peter, one of three disciples who is sort of a special audience of certain events.
He had a profound sense that Jesus loved him and was particularly close to him.
He's in this sort of inner circle, we call it, and he calls himself the disciple whom Jesus loved. Maybe they're particularly close friends, and so is this a sort of backhanded way of saying, of all the disciples, I'm kind of closest. I'm the one he loved.
It could simply just be his own accurate assessment of his relationship to Jesus.
And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth.
But he's a simple person.
This is a complex guy.
John is your typical
He's distinct.
pickup truck driving,
He has flaws.
blue collar,
He never loses his accent.
probably likes country music,
He's a guy who doesn't mind telling you what he thinks.
a very no-nonsense approach.
At first you kind of dismiss him as a rube,
He's not an unintelligent person,
a little unrefined and rude,
and probably a honk if you love Jesus bumper sticker.
but the longer you listen to him, the more you realize there's some wisdom there.
He has a certain wisdom.
You never really exhaust the message that's here.
The beloved disciple and Peter always appear together in the Gospel of John, and every single time they appear together, John knows more than Peter does.
I think of him as a transformed personality.
Oh man,
I think we should just say pretty great.
oh man,
How's that?
oh man. Ken Reed is just a phenomenal human being in every respect, and a deeply spiritual man.
It's too easy to disprove.
I've spent many hours at his feet, so when Ken talks, I listen and take notes.
How's that?